and not accept that humanity goes to an ancestral pair. When
because
this is a great
complicated organism. At that time, it was a simple cell. That's why.
Let me finish this conversation. No, that's fine. I know you can help him out, but let me just finish this conversation. How do you know universal common ancestry is true?
I don't.
Okay. What was it? I thought that's what you were claiming.
I mean, that's what I believe.
Okay, that's fine.
Whether the truth is, for example,
you sound more like a religious person now.
Because that's the thing. That's the thing about being open to logic and to science.
No, but that's not.
No, when you say I believe,
none of your because I do believe it. Because none of your beliefs are ever set in stone and unchangeable. None of them.
Well, his beliefs are based on 150 years of rigorous scientific evidence.
Exactly.
Your beliefs are based on zero.
And I'm happy to if I am presented with evidence to support the fact that lives that we have evolved from different ancestral lines, then okay. I'm willing to change.
I'm a bit confused. When I first came here, your level of certainty was there. Now you're saying it's a belief.
Yes.
Yeah. All right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you're going to come to Speaker's Corner here, like we do with everyone, you have to give evidence if you're going to make a claim.
Oh, so what is your evidence to support your claim?
What's my claim? I didn't even make a claim.
Exactly.
I'm here to challenge your claim. Because your claim was
you cannot shift the burden of proof on him when you're making the claim.
Okay, and the other thing is, you said it was a belief. Now, you do realize that's religion.
Exactly. That's what I said, yeah.
Darwinism is actually a religion, which started off as a scientific theory, but is now a religion. And the proof is in the pudding. This man here and you, both of you believe in this, but you have no evidence for it.
No evidence?
Yeah.
So you disregard the whole 150 years of science.
Go ahead, give me some evidence.
Give us the evidence then.
The fossil record, the DNA.
Okay.
You disregard that.
No, hang on. The fossil record is a subfield in biology. You can't say an evidence is the fossil record. How is the fossil record an evidence for Darwinism?
Where is it?
Well, because it shows the history of the development of creatures.
How does it support universal common descent?
Because that's what it shows. That's what it looks like happened in the past.
Okay, how does it show that?
Well, because if you dig down, say, half a meter, you'll find creatures from around 5,000 years ago. If you dig down more and more, you'll find creatures from more and more longer ago.
Okay.
And what you'll find is that the more you dig deeper, you'll find more simpler creatures, which represent the things that creatures evolved into higher up.
Okay, you do realize Darwinian theory believes that there is no inherent progress. Okay? So random mutations are random in respect to the organism. So there's no such thing as directed mutations. So according to classical Darwinian theory, and you can pick up any book, I'm just going to give you one reference, Philosophy of Human Evolution, published by Cambridge University just in 2013, 2014, it makes it clear there's no such thing as progress in Darwinian evolution. For example, you're no more complex than bacteria. For example, you survive and you reproduce, bacteria survives and reproduces.
Bacteria that's been around for 4 billion years, but equally complex to a certain degree. However,
wait, hang on.
What does differ?
Hang on. Now you're contradicting yourself. Our bacteria are they as complex as us?
Well, bacteria that have been evolved around 4 billion years, and to some extent they are.
They're not as complex creatures, but they have complex survival mechanisms.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just depends on the selection.
Do they survive and reproduce?
Yes.
Okay, do we survive and reproduce?
Yes.
So according to, and let me just give you this, right, because you guys are not contradicting yourselves now, you're contradicting mainstream secular academics. For example, Henry Gee in his book, The Accidental Species, Misunderstandings of Human Evolution, he says, and he's a Darwinist, we are no more complex than bacteria.
Okay.
Right? According to Darwinism. So you can't you can't come here and say we are more complex. We are not according to your worldview.
How do you understand that we are not more complex? What is meant by that?
It's not me, by the way.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
But that's
it's not
evidence.
No, it's not me.
So
this is Darwinist.
Okay.
This is Darwinist. This is Darwinist.
Because at the core, I see what you mean by the statement that we're no complex, because at a fundamental level, our bodies and the bodies of bacteria have very, very similar mechanisms.
Okay, now you're referring to something known as homology. Okay? Homology is the claim that similarities are due to common descent.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
This is how they look at a chimpanzee and a human being, and they say, because of similarities, there must be a common ancestor.
Yeah, but no, that's been,
okay?
that's not true though, because there's a lot of different places.
Okay, wait, hang on. I'm going to speak to one person at a time.
Many different places.
I'm going to speak to one person at a time. Okay? Now, what you're referring to is homology.
Okay.
Now, there's some issues with homology. Number one, you need to understand, homology is an assumption. Okay? It's not something which is based upon concrete observation. Secondly, we know of a counterfactual to this assumption of homology known as homoplasy. For example, there's genes in your body which develop to let you see, for you to have eyes. Likewise, there's genes in the octopus which are there to help it see. But these are known as homoplacious genes. They're not due to common descent. So homology is something which is an assumption which has a counterfactual to it known as homoplasy. Plus, to rectify that discrepancy, what you have to do is you have to put together a probabilistic framework based upon Bayesian probabilities with 9 mathematical assumptions, and then you come to what would be considered an approximation based upon assumptions and conceptual problems of a divergence between different species, right?
In the same way,
hang on.
In the same way, so
hang on a second.
In the same way that a bat's wing is, that I assume that a bat's wing came from the same thing as a bird's wing.
No, but
because it fulfills the same function.
No, but the thing is, that's not due to common descent.
Those traits are not.
Yeah.
Because they have evolved at different points after those species have already split.
So your initial point about homology.
Yes, but then you go back.
Yep.
Then you go back even further. So let's say you have different ancestors. So my basic claim, the thing that I find the most incorrect.
Sorry, say that again?
The thing that I find the most incorrect, and it's a view, not really an opinion. It's the fact that people tend to think themselves so much better than all other creatures on this planet because they have been given life by Allah, by God, by Yahweh, by Ra, by countless other beings.
Two things here. Number one, we're speaking about your initial claim of universal common descent.
Yes.
Okay? What I wanted to get to the bottom of, and the claim which I'm making, and if you don't challenge it, we can move on to the next topic about whether human beings are special or not, is that as a belief and you have no evidence for it. Because if you're going to move the topic away, either you're implicitly implying you don't have evidence for it, or you just want to go off onto a tangent.
So, I can make a statement that basically, I personally,
you believe it
with me at the moment right now, do not have the however many pieces of scientific research that were carried out, and I cannot quote them off by heart. You obviously have an immense breadth of knowledge on the subject.
No, I don't. This is stuff you can easily find online.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
And you do realize.
No, there's stuff I know. There's stuff I've read about, but I don't feel comfortable quoting it because it would just be ripped to shreds by the fact that I cannot be.
Can I give you something which is just going to be a conceptual reason why universal common ancestry can never be shown to be true? Okay, I'm giving you a very particular thing.
Go.
Okay,
yeah.
Life has been on this earth for approximately 4 billion years.
Yes.
According to the National Science Foundation, and published study last year in May, 99.999% of species are undiscovered. Not organisms, species.
Okay.
We don't have their fossils, we don't have their DNA, we have nothing of them.
Because they came and went and extinct.
They came in there, and fossilization is very rare. So because something happened a very long time ago, 4 billion years, life has been on this earth, and 99.999% of species are unobserved, any reconstruction you make is bound to be speculative.
There must be holes in it, yes.
Not holes, speculative.
Entirely.
Yes, pure speculation, pure conjecture. Were you around 1,000 years ago? No. Or would all the scientists, if they tried to work it out, wouldn't it be speculative? Yes.
Entirely.
So Darwinism is based upon what happened 4 billion years ago, with 99.999% of species missing. So by that same logic, it is also speculative.
But Darwinism is the observation of what has happened.
It's not an observation. It's a reconstruction of phylogenetic relationships in the remote past.
It's mainly observing the things that took place before Darwin. Darwin, I'm sure you know where Darwin formed the theory, right? On the Galapagos Islands, right?
Well, there's dispute about that, but
he went there. He did classified the species.
But the thing is, look, there all he did was he came up with a way that organisms change, adaptation. And before he published The Origin of Species, a Christian creationist 20 years before him, he already published the theory of natural selection as an adaptation. So there's nothing new. All he did was he made a claim that natural selection leads the bacteria to the elephant. It leads, you have this natural blind process with no foresight, and this has created all of life on Earth. And he came at a time where Christianity was dying, and there was a rise of secularism, and from the very beginning, he got support from secularists, whether they understood what he was saying or they did not, because it was a religious challenge to Darwinism. For example, just a few years ago, Jerry Fodor, an atheist philosopher of science, he published a book called What Darwin Got Wrong. And what he said at the beginning of the book, and he's an atheist, and he published the book with another evolutionary scientist, and they're both atheists, and what they said is this: they were challenging Darwinism because it wasn't making sense. But they said, we realize in our industry, which is the scientific enterprise and the philosophical community, allegiance to Darwinism is absolute, whether you understand it or you don't.
Okay.
And the proof is in the pudding that you've come here believing and claiming that it's true, but you don't have any evidence. You've just been socialized into accepting it.
Okay, fair enough. Fair play. So I take it you've read that book?
Yeah.
So what have they proposed instead?
Okay, they didn't propose it. They proposed what other scientists have come up with.
Okay.
So they proposed Evo-Devo, evolutionary development biology, as an alternative.
Okay.
Plus, there are 5 alternatives that we currently have in evolutionary biology which challenge Darwinism. We have evolution by natural genetic engineering, put together by atheist evolutionary biologists. We have neo-Lamarckian evolution, we have mutationism, we have symbiotic evolution, and we have evolution by self-organization. All of these 5 alternatives to Darwinism you'll never hear about, because Darwinism has become into a religion. Yet all of these 5 alternatives were put together by atheist evolutionary biologists who don't believe in God.
Okay, yeah.
And the reason why people believe it to be true, universal common ancestry and natural selection creating all of things, is just because we've been socialized into it. We've got no evidence for it.
I respect that. And I will admit, I have not heard about the theories that you mentioned otherwise. I have not heard about them. But I'm very curious to hear what they say.
Okay, just look them up. What they basically say is the core of Darwinism is we have random mutations and natural selection accumulates those over billions of years. What they're claiming is the random mutations are not beneficial. They're claiming they are directed mutations, which are changes due to the environment. So they're directed changes. Natural selection is a trimming force. So say you got a hedge and you want to cut off the leaves. That's what natural selection does. It just trims. It explains the survival of the fittest, but not the arrival of the fittest.
Okay.
And they come up with a whole bunch of evolutionary mechanisms which are challenging Darwinism. And the whole reason why Darwinism was popular was this. Richard Dawkins, in his book The Blind Watchmaker in the 1980s, he says before Darwin, atheism may have been logically tenable, right? You may have some sort of evidence for atheism, right? But after Darwin, we became intellectually satisfied atheists. So the reason why they're not laying any alternative within science is because the religion of atheism is based upon the belief in Darwinism. This is why you never hear any of the things which I'm saying right now. But if you go to academia, you'll find them everywhere. And those people who challenge this in academia, who are atheist philosophers of science, atheist evolutionary biologists, do you know what they call them? Secular creationists. Because they don't believe in God. So it's the only scientific theory in history which has become into a religion, and it's the only scientific theory in history which has cost the lives of millions of people.
How so?
Hitler, what he did is he applied Darwinism to a social context.
He applied eugenics to a social context.
Yep, and who came up with eugenics? Darwin's cousin.
Okay.
And his son, Leonard Darwin, is the father of eugenics in this country. And Hitler applied it.
People have been practicing eugenics long before.
Okay.
People have been practicing it. You stand up there.
Yeah, but Darwin gave a justification for it.
Darwin never used the word evolution.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
What I'm curious to say is, what I'm really curious about now is what do you believe? Where do you believe
Okay.
that humans come from, or life on this planet comes from?
Okay. I believe life on this earth was created by God.
Okay.
Okay? I believe God is the author of all of the natural laws that we have.
Okay.
So if you can, and remember, the origin of life is something that Darwin did not really speak about.
Of course.
They had ideas about spontaneous generation, and they had all these weird ideas, right? Now, even Francis Crick, the guy who discovered DNA, right, the structure of DNA, the double helix structure, he realized life is so complex, it cannot have a naturalistic origin. So and he's an atheist, and he won the Nobel Prize. He said, and he came up with a theory known as Panspermia. He said life was sent down to Earth on rockets by extraterrestrial life somewhere else in the universe, in his book Life Itself, right? And this Panspermia theory is still a viable option in science. Now, he's thinking extraterrestrials. Now, I as a religious person, I say, well, it makes more sense it was God than aliens. Because then the question goes, well, who made the aliens? You just go back forever. Now, there's huge differences between human beings and the rest of life on Earth. So we believe all of life on Earth was created by God, and there may be natural processes which help it develop, but human beings are different to the rest of creation. For example, classical Darwinian theory says we're no different to bacteria, right? But bacteria don't stand around on Sunday talking about philosophical and religious and moral issues. They just survive and reproduce. We drink coffee and talk about quantum mechanics when monkeys are jumping around in trees. There's a big difference between human beings and the rest of life on Earth. So,
but sorry if I interrupt. But the reason for that is actually makes sense. And I'm gonna, for now, I haven't read up the other evolutionary theories, so for now I'll just argue for Darwin. There is a reason for that, because as we formed into the most sort of basic human shape, let's say, the most Homo sapiens, the first Homo sapiens, it became beneficial for us to favor social interaction and intelligence over physical traits, because we outperformed the Homo Neanderthal by being smarter than them. They were bigger, they were stronger, they had thicker bones, they could run fast, they could survive on less food. In every physical aspect, they were superior to us. But we were smarter, so we killed them all.
Okay, there's one thing I want you to keep in mind. Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Magic.
Magic.
Close enough.
Okay, Sabur. I want you to explain that, but remember, within a Darwinian context, our genetics, our physiology, and our psychology, all of this, including our behavior, have to be explicable in terms of survival and reproduction. Nothing more. Anything that we do has to be explainable in terms of survival and reproduction. Now, this is a big bone of contention amongst evolutionary biologists and philosophers of science. For example, we have things like religion, which in terms of evolution, Darwinian evolution, don't really make sense. When you bow down, like we Muslims do, and pray to God 5 times a day, it doesn't help with your survival and reproduction. When me and you sit around talking about moral, ethical issues, or when we talk about, GTA 7 or whatever's out, and who got the highest scores, that's got nothing to do with survival and reproduction. So even atheist scientists, philosophers of science, have realized human social behavior cannot be explained in terms of Darwinism, because if Darwinism was true, then the selfish gene idea would be correct. So the only reason why I would help you was to help my own genes survive. But we as human beings, we help people we're not related to. We have things like hospitals, which are the survival of the unfittest. And you and me pay for it through our tax, right? So Darwinian evolution doesn't explain the vast majority of human behavior. And even, okay, just give me a second.
Go ahead,
Even atheist philosophers of science and evolutionary biologists have realized there's big problems with with sociobiology, as they call it. Sorry, what was your question?
I just said you're wrong, but it's fact.
In what way?
It does explain a large amount of human behavior.
Okay, so how would they explain altruism?
There's like really good explanations of this.
Go on. How would they?
Well, it's along to there's the idea of like immediate evolution or like a hangover from evolution. So for many, many thousands of years, it would behoove you to help other people who live in your community because they're the only people you ever see, right? So now we live in a globalist world where you see people you don't actually often come into all the time. But yet, because we've had hundreds of thousands of years